Okay, this is a video of my 2002 Volkswagen on just running going down the highway normally, getting 40 miles to gallon, and then at low speeds, and then another one on initial startup for the first half mile or so before I come to a stop, and it shows you that the car is getting outrageous gas mileage, and I haven't figured out why. But this is with our CP4U device. Okay, that CP4U -F3 was originally designed for real high speed, and it still does quite well at high speed. It gets 47 to 50 miles to a gallon average, including start and stop on trips at 80 miles an hour, which is I would say average on the stock cars around 32, but it's really programmed to run at low speeds, so it does better at low speeds than the F2 did, the earlier version. But I expect it at some point we're going to figure out what makes this thing do what it's doing, and we'll be able to make it get 250 miles to a gallon at 30 miles an hour, and that's really what that will be the ultimate achievement. When you get in 250 miles to a gallon, it doesn't matter. You're not really using any fuel. It's even at 100 miles to a gallon, you don't notice the fuel use. I road tested this car and another car against it a couple months ago, and we had a university professor observe the whole thing and oversee it. And the car that we tested it against, it jumped from one car to the other, and this is not uncommon, but we didn't realize it at the time. And the car averaged 72 miles to gallon at 80 miles an hour. That car. Ours only got 47. As I said, that's about average for our car. This car has a problem with carbon buildup in the manifold, and I didn't realize it at the time, or else it would probably gotten 72 also. Now, everybody was a little upset about that, and on the return trip to bring the next day, I decided to take the car we tested against home to see what happened. And I got 100 miles to a gallon for 100 miles, and then I filled it up then, and I used 0.97 gallons for 100 miles. That was right on the nose, and drove it home, and it still got 100 miles to a gallon. So then I took the CP4U-F3 off of the car and left it sit for 3 days, and it went back down to 32 miles to a gallon at 80. So it's a true number until we get somebody to recognize this. These are phenomenal numbers. I mean, I can't understand why nobody's done much about it, but obviously nobody gets this kind of fuel mileage, and it would really blow the doors off of an electric car in terms of fuel use, if you look at how the actual figures work, because somebody's got to make the electricity, and they're making electricity with a lot of times coal. But even if they're making it with natural gas, this car is much better in terms of fuel use than any car being produced in the world today. Okay, this is a little update on this CP4U, which is called an F3, that's version 3, which we designed to take to India where the cars drive at low speed, and therefore it's not quite as good as it could be at high speed. And what I found out since I did the original video, today's the 31st of January, and it was very warm today for a January day in Delaware. The temperature was in the mid 50s. That means that the CP4U responds better than it would at lower. It always does better at higher temperatures, up to a point. But 55 is a good temperature. So I was getting at highway speeds, I was getting in the range of 60, 65 at 70 miles an hour. So it was doing really well, and that's almost twice stock. So you can enjoy that, and I did. But when I first started off, I tried the same trick I always do, and that is to floor the car and then let off of it and put it into high gear and let the car drive itself, basically, from the throttle. So that means the throttle pressure is around 22%. And I let it do that, and the car got in, I would say 185 to 225, in that range. It would go up to the same numbers as I showed on the other video, but if you let it do it. But I found out that the car gets the highest mileage when you're letting the car basically drive itself, and not try to accelerate. But we're not talking about lift throttle like a gasoline car here. Lift throttle doesn't help a diesel much. It helps it a little bit. When you're going 60 miles an hour and you let up on the throttle, you may see 2 miles to a gallon. But you don't see the incredible lift throttle effects that you see on a gasoline car. They just don't occur. The vacuum effect is just not there. But what I saw after that was I just happened to pull out into traffic, which I'd never been able to do when there wasn't any traffic. So I pulled out on the main highway and I drove it at 35 miles per hour on basically an even throttle. And I saw in the area of 120 miles to a gallon even after it was heated up. So what I wanted to know was, when we take this to India, can I show people real high figures at the kind of speeds they drive at, which is around 30 or 35, something like that. They don't get to drive like we do in here, exceeding the traffic laws at say 70. They just don't have a place to do it. There's too many people. So that was my experience today. My overall mileage for the whole day, including driving in the traffic, in our beach traffic, is still here in the wintertime. And I drove in that traffic and averaged with acceleration and everything at 48.5 miles to a gallon. I thought that was pretty darn good. Normally, and what I was doing was I was lifting the throttle up more than I normally do. So I was trying to keep the throttle pressure lower, so the engine load is lower. It's all interrelated, and engine temperatures make a difference too. So it's a giant equation that you can't get your head around really. But one thing for sure, throttle pressure has a lot to do with how well the car performs at low speed. And I could still get easily 80 miles to a gallon at 35 miles to an hour after it was completely warmed up and at the end of the day. Probably get 100 if I wanted to. I didn't have enough space to do that. When I perform this on the back road in the morning, I have always the same amount of space, so I know what I can do. But that's not true when you're in traffic. Anyway, that's today's experience. Okay, next I want to show you some Fractals that the CAD machine makes for my fractals, which is very interesting because the shapes that it makes are often the ones we have developed from our fractals, and all fractals have ability to change the frequency of an engine or a person in positive ways, and often very quickly. So the way we got 275 miles to a gallon was through use of fractals to change the frequencies of engines in certain ways. Now, we don't necessarily know how exactly what's going on there, but we know that we know it from experience. It's basically an experience thing, and not something that we've developed through equations or anything like that. And we've been doing this for 10 years. We keep learning. So I wanted to say one thing about the fractals is that in the basic fractal that I show in this final sequence, there are twin petal fractals that are blackened out, and those are feminine fractals, and that might be used, for instance, to heal a woman of menstrual cycle problems. But they all have unique effects, and the only way you're going to know that is through a lot of experience, such as what Rich has. So when you're healing Lyme's disease, you know exactly what fractals you need to use, and he does. Anyway, let's move on.